Well, hello everybody and happy Sunday. How are you? My name is Scott Pinyard. I am the head coach here at This Naked Mind, and I am live today like I am most Sundays to tell you about some of the things that I'm thinking about, some of the stuff that I see going on in our group, some of the stuff that people are working on, and man, right now is a super busy time for a lot of people. Not only is it getting through the holidays, but we're looking into next year, and a lot of people are thinking, man, I'm going to try this dry January thing. I'm going to maybe join us for the live alcohol experiment. And I want to talk to you about a way to sort of think about this that is going to make it so much better for you. And so I'm going to dive into that in just a minute. But first, if you are ready to make a shift in the way that you think about alcohol, if you are inspired, if you have been looking to January 1st as a time when you are going to, kick off 2022 in a new way, then I want to invite you to join me and some incredibly talented coaches over in the January 2022 live alcohol experiment. These live experiments are absolutely incredible. What we do is we have 30 days of content for you. So every single day there is a video that's talking about how alcohol affects us physically and mentally and emotionally. We're actually looking at what our lives are like when we're drinking. And during this 30 days, we take the entire 30 days off of drinking. So the idea is that we take this time off, we learn about how alcohol affects us, we get incredible coaching every single day. There is a coach who is live, just like I am live now in the private group, able to talk to you about how you're feeling, to answer your questions, to talk about their experiences. This is an incredible 30 days that will shift your perspective around alcohol. And one of the best parts about it is that there is no right or wrong answer. Right? We're not going to get to the end of the 30 days. We're going to be like, all right, never drink again. That's not at all a requirement. This is all about us hitting the pause button and saying, wait a minute. How does it feel for me not to drink? What is life like for me if I'm not drinking alcohol? So it's an incredible experience. I love the live alcohol experiment. I particularly love the January live alcohol experiment because it's normally one of the biggest and one of the most exciting that we have. So if that sounds interesting to you, then I highly recommend you go and find out some more about it. It's at taelive.com. That's taelive.com. All of the information is over there. You can go find out exactly what's going on, what we're doing. It's going to be a fantastic month. So I'd love you to join us over there. Okay, so that is it for that part. Let's talk about you and let's talk about change. I want to also encourage you, if you are watching this, please send me questions. I'll be happy to answer them as I go. So what I wanted to talk about today was this idea of change. And I see this all the time. I see it when people do an alcohol experiment. I see it when people do dry January. It doesn't sound like very fun, but like that's what people do, right? And so this is what happens, right? Is we get ourselves get up. We're like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take time off of alcohol. I'm going to put down the bottle for a little bit. It's going to be fantastic. And then we spend a bunch of time focusing on all of the negative things about how hard it's going to be, about how difficult it's going to be, about how unfun it's going to be. We're worried about this, we're worried about that. We spend so much time focused on those negative things that the things we actually gain, well, those just pass us right by. Like we don't even realize that. I have talked to so many people before, said like, oh, I'm doing a dry January. And I'll be like, oh yeah, how's it going? And, they'll say something along the lines of, well, it is what it is and I'll get through. But man, February 1st, it's going to be a big party. And I totally get this. I was in the same boat, right? The idea of taking time off of alcohol felt like a chore. It felt like something I had to slog through. And there was always this shining day at the end of it when I could have a drink again. And every time I went into something like this with that focus of like, oh, this is really going to suck. And then it'll be over and then I'll be able to drink again. It didn't work for me. right? It just didn't work for me. You might have had the same experience too. If you've tried this in the past, to really be like, oh, I'm going to take, even if it's a week, I'm going to take a week off of alcohol, but man, Saturday I'm going to go nuts, right? Oh, it's okay. I can drink on Saturday. When we do this and we're so focused on that end result, we completely miss all the good stuff that's in the middle. And that's what I want to talk about, right? The reason that you would take time off of drinking is to experience some sort of benefit. Like, yes, I know that there's a lot of social pressure and people are like, oh, well, we're all doing dry January as an office, and that's great and that's really wonderful, but that's not really the motivation. That's not really the reason people are doing it, right? We do this stuff because we want to feel different, right? Because we feel that maybe something is off, that maybe we need to figure something else out. And so we decide to take a month off of alcohol. And what I actually want to help you do, and I'm going to give you some tips to do this, is I want to help you be able to move beyond, oh, here's where this is going to suck, and actually focus on the good things. I did this one time. I remember very clearly I was going to take an entire month off of alcohol. And by the way, spoiler alert, I did not make it. But I remember the day before, I was planning and I'm like, okay, it was the month of August. I'm going to take August without drinking. And so I was thinking about it and I was planning for it and I was planning for all these negative things, right? I was like, well, what if I don't sleep? And what if I'm irritable? And what if this? And what if that? And that was the extent of my planning, with one exception, right? I also planned for September 1st to be a weekend where I got to drink my face off. And this is what happened. Right? I walked into it with these negative feelings, expecting it to be difficult, expecting it to be hard, expecting it to be something that I'm not really going to enjoy. And I was 100% right. I was 100% right. I went into this and it was no fun. I was miserable. And that feeling of the anger, that feeling of missing out, that feeling of like just, it felt like everywhere I looked, I was just lacking something, right? Focusing on that kept my mind on that, and that did not allow me to actually notice what I noticed when I eventually quit drinking. I'll get to that in a minute. But it made me so focused on the negative, and that negative day after day after day, it was too much for me. And I didn't end up making it the full month. And this is a story, and honestly, I hear this over and over and over from people, the same exact thing of like, oh, I'm so scared to do this, and this is going to be so difficult, and I can't wait till it's over. Look, when we go into any experience, even if we have a pretty good idea, we truly don't know how it's going to go. We just don't know. So I mentioned sleeplessness, right? I actually didn't experience that, this time when I quit drinking. And I was at a place where I was so worried about it. I was so concerned about it, that I actually wasn't able to even say, oh, you know what? Like, here we go. Like I'm just gonna be sleepless. Like, it's just gonna be terrible. But the reality is I didn't have that, right? Irritability, like, yes, I did have some irritability, but it wasn't horrible. But because I was so focused on it, because I was looking out for it, I got a little bit mad and I was like, oh, here we go. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? Anytime we go into an experience, you're going to get what you expect to get. You're going to get what you expect to get. So if you are looking at January 1st, which I know so many people do, of an idea of like, all right, I'm going to shift my relationship with alcohol in 2022. No more of this, right? I want to give you some tips on how you can do this in a way that's actually going to be enjoyable. It's going to be much more fun than thinking about January as being this miserable month, because for so many people it is. I want to shout out to Emma. Emma said, I'm almost at my first full year. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy to hear that, Emma. I lost my spot in my notes here. Right. So if you are thinking about joining us for the live alcohol experiment, or if you are doing, a dry January with a group of friends or any other program, honestly, this applies to any program. I want to give you one thing that will help you make it not seem as miserable. And it's this: do not focus on what you're giving up. Focus on what you're getting. That is the main piece. That is the main piece for any of these changes. And by the way, this applies to a lot of other changes too, not just alcohol. Don't focus on what you're giving up. Focus on what you gain. Right. And the reality is, in the story that I just told you about my little alcohol-free month a few years ago, like when I did that, I was so focused on what I was giving up that I didn't even recognize what I was gaining. And I see this when I coach people in programs. They'll be like, oh man, Scott, I've really been struggling and I feel like it's been so hard and I just feel like I miss out and there's all this negative. And then I'll ask them a question like, hey, have you woken up with a hangover in the last 2 weeks? And they'll go, no, I haven't. Or I'll say, hey, have you noticed that like your mood might be a little more stable? And they'll think about it for a second and they'll go, yeah. And this is a common thing, right? Because we're all so afraid of the shift. We're all so afraid of how difficult this is going to be that we actually miss the good things. So I can't overemphasize this enough, right? Really being open to and allowing yourself the time to focus on what you gain is going to help you so much going forward. Ken wrote in, Ken said, is there one central place for TNM podcasts? I'm needing to add them to my toolbox. Yes. So any of your favorite podcatchers, right? If you use Apple Podcast or Google Podcasts, any of those, if you search This Naked Mind in the podcast player, you'll find all of them right there. And you can always go to thisnakedmind.com/podcast and they're all right there as well. So I hope that helps. So where was I? I got distracted by podcasts. I love podcasts. Sorry. Right. So I want to give you 3 things, and I actually have a bonus 4th that I added just as I hit live, but 3 things that you can do to help yourself keep focused on the positive. And I'm going to warn you ahead of time, especially the first one feels a little cheesy, but I want you to go with me on it because, I'll get into it when I explain. So thing number 1 that you can do to help yourself stay focused on what you're gaining is this. Keep a list. Like keep just a list of the good things that you are experiencing over the month, right? The 30 days alcohol free. And again, I know this sounds cheesy and I'm not telling you to like keep a list and read it every day and like Stuart Smalley your way in the mirror. What I'm saying is actually note, oh, wow, that was actually a positive. Man, I didn't have a headache today. Oh, you know what? I feel a little more even keeled, right? But keep a list of those positive things and make it its own list. And there's a few reasons why I ask you to do this. Number 1, we forget so quickly, right? When we're going through a change like this, it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget the good things that are happening because we're so focused on the bad. So if you have this list, it's going to be a record of that. The second reason that I ask you to do it is that by actually taking out a pencil or an Apple Pencil, if you're me, and writing down what it is that you are experiencing that's good, that is going to be a way to help lock it in. So that makes a huge difference. So thing number 1, keep a list, a good things list. Don't put anything else on that list, just the good things you are experiencing. By doing that, it is going to help you notice it when it happens more often. Number 2 is talk about it. Talk about it. Right? So like when you notice these good things, talk to other people about those good things. If you're in the live alcohol experiment, talk to the other people in the live alcohol experiment about it. Tell us about it. Post about it. If you're doing this with a group of friends, tell your group of friends, right? Again, this is another way to help shift our focus. Whatever it might be, whoever it is you can talk to your dog about it. Like it doesn't really matter as much as you are expressing it, because expressing it is another way that you're going to be able to lock it in and you're going to be able to shift what you're paying attention to. I want to take a little bit of a detour here and tell you about something called the reticulating activating system. This is a part of our brain. It's a system inside of our brain. And by the way, you've definitely experienced this before. Most people experience it when they buy a new car, right? So like one day you're like, hey, I'm going to go buy that silver Subaru. And you go buy that silver Subaru and you've been thinking about it for a week and like you're really excited about it. And then you have this new silver Subaru and you're loving it. And then you look around and it's like, all I see are silver Subarus now. Have you ever experienced that? This is incredibly common, and it is due to something called the reticulating activating system. What that essentially means, and I'm going to shortcut a whole bunch of the science here, but the things that you're thinking about, the things that you're focused on more, you're going to notice more in the outside world. So in the case of that car, you've been focused on that car so much and thinking about that car so much that now it just seems like they're popping up everywhere. It is not that everyone just bought a silver Subaru at the same time you did. It's just that your brain has been so focused on it that it's noticing more of them. That's the same exact thing. That's what we're trying to use here as a hack. When you keep a list and when you talk about these good things that are happening, it allows you to just recognize them out in the wild. So number one, keep a list. Number two, talk about it. Number three, and this one's a big one, and I get this question all the time, do it without an end goal. What are you talking about, Scott? It's called, it's a 30-day alcohol experiment. Yes. So do it with the idea that you're going to make a decision at the end how you want to go forward. One of the things I make a really big deal about when we talk about the alcohol experiment, and you'll see me do this if you've ever been in there, I'll talk a whole lot about this idea of like, you don't need to make a decision on day 3 what you're going to be doing on day 30, right? You don't know what you're going to learn between those 2 days. The whole idea is going to experience life without alcohol. Honestly, how the hell can you make a decision today that you're going to know what you know at the end of the month when there's an entire month's worth of experience? I see this a lot with the planning idea. If it's like, all right, I'm going to take the month off, but man, February 1st, I'm going to hit the town, right? I'm going to do it up. The reality of the situation is you have no idea what you're going to learn between now and then. And so whether your goal is long-term, forever not drinking again, or whether your goal is to go back to the way that it was on December 31st or anywhere in between, we'll go into this process without a particular goal in mind. Be open-minded. And what this does is it allows you to actually take in this information and not run it through all of the filters that you're going to have about like, oh yeah, he just said this, but you know what? At the end of the month, I'm going to have a real big party. Or, oh yeah, he just said this. And, I don't really feel that's applicable to me because I don't ever want to drink again, right? All of those thoughts are actually distracting you from what is happening right now. And what is happening right now is the experience of being alcohol free. So there will be a day and a time that you can make a decision. There will be a day and a time at the end of the month when you have all of this experience behind you, when you can say, you know what? I'm going to march forward in this direction. But don't go into the whole thing with that goal, because the reality is you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're going to learn. And so if you are open-minded, you're going to get as much of the information as you possibly can. And that is going to allow you to make the most educated decision you possibly can at the end of the month. So those are the 3 things that help us stay focused on the positive, right? Number 1, keep a list. Number 2, talk to people. And number 3, do it without an end goal in mind. Allow yourself just to be completely open to what you learn. Those are the ways, of the 3 biggest ways that I can think of for people to stay positive or focused on the positive things, on the things that are helping them get themselves where they want to go. Now, I told you I'm going to give you a 4th one, a bonus one, and I am. And it's this, right? Focus on how you are feeling. So often the focus is on, man, like, here's what I'm going to do at the end, or this is what's going on, today, this is what's going on tomorrow. Oh, next weekend's going to be so busy. All of that stuff, all valid thoughts. But the reality is what you are feeling right now is the experience. Right? So like what you are feeling right now, not an hour from now, not a week from now, not a month from now, right now. And so if you can focus on how you want to feel and how you are feeling, you're going to start to notice those positive changes a lot more. And yes, focusing on how you're feeling sometimes is going to mean, hey, I'm kind of scared. I'm a little bit anxious about this party that I'm going to, or I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen if I get through this whole thing and don't want to drink. That's all fine. That's all fine. but paying attention to how you feel right now. And that means how you feel physically and how you feel mentally. That helps you stay grounded in what you're experiencing. And that, everybody, is why you're doing it in the first place. So keep a list of the positive things that happen to you. Talk about those positive things with other people in your group, other people in your life, friends and neighbors. Like I said, even to your dog, it doesn't matter, right? Do this whole thing with no end state in sight. Just be open-minded, let it all wash over you, and then make an educated decision at the end. And then finally, focus on how you are feeling. If you can do those things, right? If you can check in with yourself and focus on how you feel, and if you can be open-minded about where you're going to go, and if you can spend a little time every day writing about the good things that happen and talking to other people about them, that's how you're going to shift your focus away from the things that you are giving up and toward the things that you are gaining. Now, I know that was a lot of information to cram into 20 minutes, and I apologize for that, but I just know that like this time of the year, people are so motivated and want to get out there. And so I've been thinking a lot of like, what are the things I want to say? I have some more to say about it next week when we talk on Sunday next week. But for now, that is how you can focus on what you're getting and drop the focus on what you're losing. So I hope that all makes sense. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for the last 20 minutes or so. As always, I want to invite you, if you have a question or a comment, just please put it right here on the video. And if you are ready to take a step into 2022 with a different relationship with alcohol, if you are looking to shift your thinking even a little bit around alcohol, then I want to invite you to join us for the live alcohol experiment. It is starting next week. It's already open. We've got so many people in there just geared up and getting ready to go. If you want 30 days of coaching and content and community, unlike anything you've ever seen, then I want to invite you to join us at the live alcohol experiment. Head on over to taelive.com. That's TAE Live. You can see the link in the description. I would love to see you in there. I hope everyone is having a good holiday season, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.